Destiny Leader Fan Radio Network.
Tweet that.
And KFAN.com. 2 minutes, 4 seconds past the hour of 3 o'clock. That is Central Standard Time. We welcome you back to a very special Thursday edition of the Bumper to Bumper program on a, not quite as chilly and windy as yesterday, weekday afternoon here in the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Louis Park. I am the host of the program, sometimes called the A-Hole in the afternoon, occasionally the Sultan of Snark, a number of other nicknames, most of them not particularly positive. Guardsy is the producer of the show. At last count, you have tasteless box of mashed potatoes.
Yeah, that's pretty much it for the big nickname. I thought there was one other one. No,
that's it.
I mean, people call me Guardsy. That's technically a nickname, but I don't really have.
You need
a
more,
lot of those.
You need an alternate, I think.
Well,
I think it's time.
Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line 64686.
I'm sure Larry Mondello guy's got a couple.
A few, maybe a little tighter than tasteless box of mashed potatoes.
Yeah.
That got abbreviated to T-Bomb, which I actually kind of like.
Yeah, that's not bad.
It's a good one.
It's not a bad one at all. Very good guest lineup today. I want to add. You'd asked me off air, do we do the inbox today? My inclination is no, but I could be swayed if you think we should try to squeeze her in. We got a lot to get to because we're moving the pick segment up a day. Carl Gerbschmidt and the picks, the award-winning pick segment, is scheduled for 4:02 today. And by the way, another reason to pay attention, we do have a Gerby Lock of the Week, which the winner of, if you lay it out via Twitter, and your name is selected via drawing, then you'll get a pair of tickets to welcome Kirk Cousins back to the People's Stadium on Sunday at high noon. So that's at 4:02. Sean Salisbury is scheduled for the bottom of this hour, and Wild General Manager Bill Guerin is going to join at 5:02. We're out at 6 because it's Thursday. Significant Vikings programming today as well, correct? That's why we get out at 6 on Thursday?
Yeah, the Minnesota Vikings podcast, which Meat Sauce is a part of. Shaq Griffin is going to be the guest with Tatum Everett as well. And then it's Vikings Tailgate. Cy Amundsen hosts that. And do you ever listen to Tailgate? You ever caught Tailgate?
I have not, I don't think.
So it's typically one of Cy Amundsen's comedy friends that joins from the market that we're playing.
Ah, okay.
And with the Atlanta Falcons being the opponent tonight.
Yes. What do we got?
Jeff Foxworthy.
Oh, that's a big name.
Jeff Foxworthy from You Might Be a Redneck fame is the guest. So I'm sure my mom will be tuning into that because she loves herself some Foxworthy.
How about Tenna East?
Tenna East?
Tenna East.
What am I, east of Tenna?
I guess, yeah. I don't know. Why would you be east of Tenna?
I think I live west of Tenna. Tenna lives east. Yeah. I live west.
Lunch bag? That's what Mace was calling you yesterday.
That was a good one.
Lunch, and we'll just call you Lunch for short.
He came in on the way out, and he just looked at me and goes, lunch bag, and then just left. That was the last thing he said to me, was lunch bag.
Weren't you the pup back in the PA days?
I was the pup, yeah.
So
I was the pup
that's
for a
another
brief
nickname
stretch.
that you're forgetting about conveniently. Maybe you didn't like it.
I forgot about the pup, yeah. How can I forget about the pup? Before I was rescued from the puppy shelter.
That's it.
To come here to Afternoon Drive. But yeah, the pup was one. You can call me the pup if you'd like. I'm 42.
Well, we'll see. But on the inbox, I don't know. Let me know if you want the inbox. Hit the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line 64686.
It's really up to the letters we get.
That's true.
But I don't want to solicit them if we're not going to do it and waste people's time.
Well, I'm asking people whether they want it. And if they do, we'll try to squeeze her in. Because if we do it, what time would it have to be?
Probably 4:30.
Yeah, 4:30.
4:42 maybe.
Yeah,
depending on how we break.
It'd be a quickie version.
Yes.
Of the inbox. Maybe that's what we do. But we'll see. We'll take it under advisement with our listeners. We always, we don't always necessarily follow their advice, but we will certainly listen. And maybe in this case, we will follow one way or the other. 64686 Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line. Is defense becoming our destiny? And the hour here is the professional sports market, at least as it pertains to not one, not two, but three of our teams. And I don't want to overreact to the best, I guess you could say, back-to-back example of legitimately good to smothering defense by the Wolves, because they've not been adhering to that through much of the first quarter of the seaon. That's largely the reason the team has been flirting with 500, although now we're back above it. We've seen the two best back-to-back defensive performances by far. I don't know how much credit we get because were they both scheduled victories?
Yes.
Yeah, they were, weren't they?
This is scheduled victory week.
And we get Golden State. They're playing tonight.
Yes.
So we're going to get another scheduled victory there, even though in this case they're playing at home again, I think.
They are, and I'll double check this, but someone alerted me yesterday that Curry is sitting out tonight.
Yeah, that's true.
And will be ready tomorrow. So is that really, how do we evaluate this? This is tricky.
The moral of the story is this is why there's way too much media time spent on this garbage. It really is. But there's no doubt, as we talked about yesterday, we've seen a little bit more defensive tenacity. We've seen a greater commitment to the bit. We've seen much more aggressiveness defensively. And dare I say it, maybe the best of Rudy Gobert again. And I don't think, even by his own acknowledgement, I don't think he this year has started the season anywhere near as dominant as he did a year ago. I think maybe part of what is now fueling Rudy post the little mini crisis involving Julius Randle is him coming to the realization. We've talked about this before. Well, somebody said it. Who was it? Was it a coach or was it Anthony Edwards? Who basically said, maybe it was Conley, basically said it was Mike Conley. We have to sort of accept what each of us can and can't do. And that may well be the advice that Rudy Gobert is now taking, where he's going, yeah, I'm still annoyed with what I'm not always getting from Randall, doing what they asking me to do this instead of that. But that's all based on the premise that then Julius Randle will do the this if I'm doing the that. And the dirty little secret was that's what he was most irked about, not getting the ball under the basket because he had the mismatch. So part of this might well be Rudy saying, well, I got to listen to one of the other leaders. I may not like it, but we're here. We're together, at least for now. We don't know how long, but we're together for now. So I can't mope about what I'm not getting elsewhere. Instead, I'll do even more than I've been asked to do before, and I'll try to make up for all of the other defensive cardinal sins that are taking place. Bottom line is we are being reminded of what was the literal identity of the club a year ago. And Lord knows that's going to probably tell largely the story about this season, whether they're able to consistently, now that they've gotten a taste of it, whether they can adhere to it and stick with it as well. There's a million other things, of course, but defense is a big part of it. We talked yesterday, and I'm sure we'll get into this with Bill Guerin today. Minnesota Wild, last year, save percentage. They were 23rd in the National Hockey League. This year, they are first. Gus Bus, .929 save percentage and a 2.04 goals against average. Number one.
That's pretty good.
Among goaltenders in the National Hockey League. And generally, more generally, your favorite hockey team is allowing 2.32 goals a game. That is also number one in the association. Well, no, it's the league. I guess it's the NHL. But it's also an association of teams. And what better identity? I mean, again, I get it. Offense sells tickets, and it's sexy, and that's what gets the highlights and everything. But it's so boring to say, but it continues to be so true. If your, what do I say? Your personality, your trademark is indeed defense. And just defense, solid defense, fundamentally sound defense that gives you a chance to win even on nights when your offense is not going so well, you got a great chance to be a factor. And the Vikings there's a lot of talk about the quarterback, and there should be. There's a lot of talk about Aaron Jones, and there certainly should be. There's obviously ongoing talk about do we have the best wide receiver 1-2 combo in the National Basketball Association? I don't know if we're that far, but, we got a very nice 1-2 punch, right? With not a bad tight end. Couple tight ends.
Very nice.
Catch the ball. All those things, I think, are worthy of discussion. But isn't defense the trademark of this club? Isn't defense the number one reason they're sitting here, or the Vikings are sitting here at 10-2? Vikings are 5th in the league in points allowed per game. They're tied for 2nd in the league with 24 takeaways. And they are number 1 in the National Football League with 18 interceptions. Now, if you care about yardage, I think we're 12th. We're more, you could say more middle of the road a little bit. But again, there are times where yardage matters because that keeps the ball away from your own offense and it allows the other team to possess, okay? But if I'm doing the grading, I'm much more interested in, well, how many points are you giving up? That's going to always be at the top of my list. And clearly, what I think the most impactful part of a defense, for all sorts of obvious reasons, has to do with taking the ball away. Now, some of that people think is luck. Some people think that, year to year you can't necessarily count on it because there's some horseshoe involved, the whole bit. But you take it for what it's worth, and it's important why. Obviously, anytime you can give the ball back to your offense, that helps. But there's the added, I think, psychological devastation that's associated with the other team losing the ball or the ball being taken away from them. Sometimes, in scoring position, sometimes where then you put your own offense in scoring position. So I ask you, by the way, we can't include the Twins in this because defense is most definitely not our destiny right now. But can we say right now that we feel good about 2 of our defensive units, the Wild so far this season, and the Vikings, and we hold out hope that maybe the message finally got conveyed in a way that the Wolves can do what we already know they have done, right? Different group, but they did it a year ago. They did it. They were the top defensive team by far all season. So it's in their resume already. Is defense our destiny?
When you lay it out like that, I have to say it is. And 2 of them, it's already a lock. A lock-up, a lockdown defense, whatever you want to call it. The third one is the Wolves. And I know that they've played 2 horrifically poor-performing teams on schedule losses. Saw what happened to the Lakers last night. They got absolutely trounced. And now the accountability word's being thrown around by everybody. But the effort to be good defensively was at least there. And they have enough guys that I think are good defenders that if the effort is at least there.
Even if you don't get greatness from Randall.
Yeah. And as Finchie said in the Johnny Athletic piece today, it doesn't have to be perfect all the time. But as long as you're trying all the time. And they've been doing that the last couple of games. Flying around. Naz Reid is flying around, blocking shots, diving into the crowd. We haven't seen that type of defensive effort.
The whole stretch, to be honest with you, the game before, right?
Agree. So you're seeing enough defensive fortitude from enough guys where they can, I think, get back closer. Maybe not to the top like they were a year ago in dominant fashion, but closer to the top.
The last 2 weeks, the Timberwolves defense ranks number 1. Very small sample size. Again, schedule losses for the other teams, but worth mentioning. And as Alan Horton also noted, it's the first time in 19 years that the Wolves have held an opponent to 80 or fewer points in back-to-back games. First time in 19 seasons. I want to get to some texts on this. Lots more to discuss regarding whether defense is our destiny, and then we'll prepare for Sean Salisbury at the bottom of the Bumper to Bumper is the name of the program. As I mentioned, we'll get good football insight from Sean Salisbury. Timing at 3:30. Timing is good there for all the obvious reasons. We will talk about Kirk Cousins coming back to town, and we will have the opportunity to preview a Thursday night game that I am very much looking forward to. Are you not? It's the Detroit Lions.
Of course, big one.
Hosting the Green Bay Packers. I mean, NFC North, a lot of stuff is on the line there. You don't have to like either one of those teams. You can be a big Vikings fan and say, well, okay, let's see how this thing goes. Maybe the Packers can shock the world. You're as a Viking fan, I would assume, in the unusual position where you are forced to and accept the reality of rooting for the hated Green Bay Packers, correct?
If you want to win the division, yeah, it's in your best interest. I don't love it.
No, but you got to grow up and talk, like you said, do you want to win the division or not?
I know. Do I need to grow up, though? I mean, if growing up gets me to the division, maybe. I'd rather just stay a child and be the wild card.
Yeah. Well,
and have Green Bay below us.
Okay. All right. Well, there's some emotion there. There's no question.
But I'm curious what most people would say.
You're the guy who wants, if the Vikings were to win do we play in Lambeau yet, or do we already play there and lose?
We already won in Lambeau.
We won in Lambeau. Yeah. That's right. Did we try to plant the Vikings flag at the 50?
We should have.
You would have been all in favor of it, wouldn't you?
Did the skull chant there, I'm sure.
You would have absolutely loved that, wouldn't you?
I don't like flag planting, but I like the skull chant.
I know.
And the calf roping when Jared Allen was doing it there. That was fun.
Remember those days?
Yeah, very well.
He's on the Hall of Fame list, I think, right? He's made several of the cuts thus far. Mm-hmm. Our guy Chuck Foreman sadly did not.
I know.
I don't think Jim Marshall did either. Correct. On some of the other ways to get in.
Mm-hmm.
Where is I'm looking for the Finchy quote that got my attention regarding our defensive performance, and of course now I can't find the damn thing. And also, can you get for me on the fly here the Wolves box score from last night?
Yeah.
Got a couple questions for you regarding. Well, actually, I think I can just click on it right here. Here's the Timberwolves box score. We were up as much as 40, correct? I mean, was it 74-34? Did I hallucinate that when I woke up?
No, that's what it was, and it was quick and surgical in the first quarter. It was a ridiculous quarter.
This might be, in all seriousness, my favorite basketball line of all time. And it comes from your guy, Rudy Gobert, who finished with 8 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists, and 5 steals. I mean, that's the greatest box score line in history because it's so unusual.
Yes.
That mixture. Now, he didn't get the double digits in any of them, but you could say, he came remarkably close to one of the oddest triple doubles in the history of basketball, right?
And you know which stat line he did not fill in at all? Turnovers.
That's true. Good point.
No turnovers.
0.
They threw it to him and he didn't drop it.
Only 2 fouls and 0 turnovers. He was
awesome.
Like plus 21.
No look passes. He was like Ricky Rubio.
What time's your apology to Julius Randle? He was plus 28.
And he got off to a great start in the first quarter.
He was ridiculous, right?
A bunch of threes in the first.
Yeah. I think he outscored the entire Clippers roster. They've got, Kawhi's dead, pretty much, right? Yeah. Although he's on the sidelines. I saw him.
Yep.
They've got at least 2 or 3 other people out as well. And by the way, where a lot of people are saying that they can't root for the Packers tonight. Okay. It's your funeral. I don't want to hear any whining when the Vikings at 14-3 have to go to Tampa Bay, and play their first playoff game on the road and lose.
And lose to Baker Mayfield.
I don't want to hear any whining about that.
Who is a flag planter.
He is, that's true.
Yeah, Baker Mayfield is one of the original flag planters.
Flag planters, wasn't he?
He was, yes.
Very true. Yeah, this is. Is it on the Fan tonight? Thursday Night Football?
Yeah, I think we just heard the promo for it.
Did we?
I'm pretty sure we just heard the liner for it. I'm looking at the calendar. It's right there in red.
Somebody said they're rooting for a tie tonight. What would that what are the ramifications of a tie?
I mean, it would keep Green Bay behind us.
That's true.
And make it a little easier to catch.
Does it make it a little easier to catch Detroit?
I would think.
Well, then if they tie.
Or does it make it tougher than a loss?
If they tie. So the line, right now, we are 10-2?
Yeah.
Lions are 11-1?
Yes.
So if they tie tonight, they'd be 11-1-1.
Yeah. I guess they'd still be ahead of us.
They could finish 15. Yeah, I think they still would be ahead of us.
Yeah. Yeah, they would because we got of the losses.
Yeah, but if we beat them?
Right.
Then do we then control our own destiny?
That I don't know, but I would assume yes.
Yeah, because, no. We still no, because, they'd have 2 losses and a tie, so we'd have 1 more victory.
Right.
So a tie, I think.
It should. It feels like it should help us. It feels like
it should help us, and then maybe it does make it a little more palatable that you don't give Green Bay the satisfaction of going to the Silverdome and winning the game, right, on national TV.
Yeah, I'm confused.
I think, we have not thought this through, which has never stopped us before, but I do think a tie, if you then beat Detroit in that last game, we would have the same number of losses, but they would have one fewer victory than we would because of the tie, correct? By the end of the season.
Yeah, but what does that do to the winning percentage? Because isn't that what they would go by?
Well, your winning percentage, by definition, if you've won less game, your winning percentage can't be as good, can it?
I wouldn't think so, but I don't know. I don't like when we do things on the fly together.
Well, it's dangerous.
It's not good for anybody.
I'll do some checking during the break, and I'll try to get somebody a little more authoritative who can help us through this, because I had not thought about the tie possibility. And ties, it sounds crazy. I don't know how often we have ties anymore. OT is only 10 minutes now, right? So it feels like it's more likely, logically to happen, although it seems like most of the games I recall have not ended in ties that have gone into OT so far. Willow, Mark Rosen's cat, don't overthink this, guys. You're hurting our ears.
Yeah, we know. That's why I say I don't like doing it.
We'll figure it out
on the fly, but that's what we do for people.
Let's stay on schedule. We'll chat with Sean Salisbury. He'll help us preview tonight's game and preview Vikings and the Atlanta Falcons as well. Lots of good football conversation as always with our guy Sean Salisbury. That's next. Tweet of the day comes from our guy Ron Johnson, listening to Barreiro and Garzi trying to figure out if 15 wins is better than 14 wins is leaving me speechless. Scenario confusing them. Who would win the North if the Vikings finished 15-2 and the Lions finished 14-2-1?
When you put it like that.
Well, I'm going to throw you under the bus because that's what my instincts were. I didn't think I was missing anything. And then you start going, well, wait a minute now. We're doing this on the fly. Are we sure? And then that puts more doubt in my head.
Yeah, I shouldn't put any doubt in your head. I should just maybe keep quiet when the numbers come up.
I mean, the danger is we're completely wrong, and then we haven't shown any humility.
Right.
Sean Salisbury, it is confirmed. You can confirm this, right? If the Vikings, the scenario was Vikings fans don't really like rooting for the Packers, so somebody proposed, here's what I'm rooting for, a tie tonight. And I started thinking about it. I said, well, yeah, I guess I do kind of get that, because then if the Vikings run the table, which means beating the Lions, last game of the season, a big if, but, doing it, then clearly the Vikings would have one more victory, which means they would win the division. So that does make sense, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, it's like I think trying to figure out if you have more wins than the other team and they have more losses,
the same number of losses, but they have that tie, which is taking away why they don't have. Right. They're stuck with 14
that would
victories.
Be a half game better in
That'd
my
be
mind.
it, right?
All right, so we're cheering for the tie.
Yeah, the tie would be fun.
Math,
yeah,
right.
That's it.
And then, because it's like I say on my show sometimes, is one of the greatest stats in all of sports is when your team scores more than the other team, 100% of the time, you're guaranteed to win the game. So
that's it.
Yeah, I mean, when you're in that 16 to 17 range, when any higher than 17. The number 17, we got problems.
We do.
Yeah,
me too.
I'm good. I think that'll work.
Well, I think part of it for us is we're not very good on the fly in math at all, like calculations and percentages. And I asked Gardsey, and he goes, "Why do you do this to me? I don't know any more than you do." And then he'll think he's got it, and then somebody texts us.
I'll just say it. I have no confidence.
And says, "You guys are idiots. That's not this number. You're not even adding this up right. You're not dividing it right." So. Part of it is a lack of confidence.
Basically, the Dan Barreiro show needs to go back to simple math in the fourth grade.
Yeah, it's very true.
I apologize to my 10th grade math teacher, Jeff Mace, monthly. He's a legend because I have to name drop him, Sean, and apologize to him almost monthly.
That's it.
For screwing it up.
Right, because he's like, wait a minute, I taught you better than
Yes,
that.
He did. He did. I'm a failure.
It wasn't his fault. It was yours.
Right?
Right?
Hey, Gardsey, you have no future, dude. I'm sorry, man.
Trust me. I've realized that recently.
At least you're not going to be a capologist right now, right?
That's it.
That's true.
For sure. We won't even try. Well, my 14-year-old daughter is excellent in geometry. I sucked in geometry. I mean, I was actually okay in basic math back in the day, but I've lost that. In geometry, I was horrible. And she's like, she throws this stuff at me and asks, what about this? And I go, No, don't ask me. I have no. I don't even know what world you're living in. So
did you both of you guys, Guardsy and Dan? Did you guys? Do you guys remember what was your last math class? Whether it's college or high school? Do you remember what? I mean, did you get to trigonometry? Because in broadcast journalism, in my major, I took more sciences in college than I did. Because I actually went to college, university, to USC originally to be a dentist.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, no, I went to be a dentist. And so I started, the pre-med stuff.
Sure.
And science. So I was decent at math. But the last math class I took was high school geometry.
I think me too, to be honest. I didn't take any in college.
I made a good grade in it, but I'm like, this is not. I know that people out there will say, well, Sean, you're wrong. If you want to be a professor, it does matter. But I thought, let's see, I can add, subtract, multiply, and divide. I got a calculator. What am I going to do with like trigonometry moving forward in my career?
Right.
So I said, this is one of those where you memorize it for the test, and the second you walk out of class, it's like,
right, yes,
I'm good. Geometry is my last math. Yeah. I made an A in the class, and I said, you know what? No, but it was just too hard work and study. Simple math like that, the basic stuff comes fairly easy. But I thought, why am I going? I would have rather taken, a class at like. A cooking class.
Agree.
In trigonometry.
100%.
Yep. Right. So that was me. But us three together, we at least equal 8th grade math. So we're good to go, guys.
Well, Guardsy, it's tricky with Guardsy. You ask, if you ask him what was the last math class he took in college, he went to 5 colleges. So
right.
Did you take math in any of them?
Yeah, I did. I remember I got to calculus in high school, which is unbelievable now.
I forgot about calculus.
You're the highest ranking calculus.
I got to calculus.
Yeah.
I think I dropped it, though, my senior year, like second semester. I'm pretty sure.
You were going to lose your tennis eligibility if you didn't?
Probably. Yeah. And then I needed, at one of the colleges, the only math class I remember was, and this will make sense. It was the title of it was Math for Liberal Arts, which basically means you need a math credit. We're going to dumb it down as much as you can. Yeah. We're going to check off that, and then you can move on. I remember taking Math for Liberal Arts, which
had to have it to graduate. Right?
Yes, exactly right.
That's it.
Yeah, so there you go.
That makes some sense.
If the three of us go to dinner, it's good that they sometimes tell you what the tip percentage is on the bottom of the receipt.
Yeah, 10, 15, 20%.
Right. I need.
That's what we'll do.
Yeah, I definitely need the chart. I need the tip chart.
I am smart enough to use a calculator, though.
Yes.
On your phone now. I just, what's 22% of $174? I mean, boom, I can get that pretty quickly if you know what numbers to put.
Well, that's it. You're assuming you know what numbers to put in there and where to put the decimal point, which half the time I don't even know how the hell to do that. It's unbelievable.
Well, thank goodness none of us are going to be teaching math at a university.
Very true. All right, where do we begin? Let's talk Thursday night football. I'm very much looking forward to this matchup. I'm sure you are as well. NFC North fans, it's huge. Has great implications for the Vikings for all the obvious reasons here. So you usually do picks every week. I don't know if you've picked this game yet or not, but what do you expect tonight in Detroit?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a hell of a game. I think it's going to be close, but I like Detroit. I think it's inside it. What's the spread now? Do anybody know?
I think it's 3.5 last night.
Yeah. If I was betting it, I'd bet Green Bay. I didn't bet this game because sometimes I want to watch a game. First of all, it's too tough. Both teams just, you don't feel overly comfortable. If I was going to bet the points in this game, the hook would make me go Green Bay, right? When I get 3.5 for me, because I think they're good enough to run it. And I think Jordan Love, he layers the football. He's really good. And I think he's got not just good now, I think he's got a phenomenal future and good matchups with coordinators and play callers. I think we're in for a hell of a fun matchup tonight. The resilience of the Lions. But if I was gambling this, I'd take Green Bay. This is like a 31-28 type game.
Yeah.
I do. I think they're going to score. It's going to be a fast track and they're going to be moving. But I still look, and I'll get to the game, but I look at the North and think about this. You're the Packers, and you're the third best team in the division record-wise.
Yeah.
It is. And you roll around some of these others, and you say, well, damn, they're winning this division if they were playing against that schedule. I mean, it's pretty fascinating how good this division is, and it can't be faked this late in the year, right? I mean, the Vikings, and even though it may not look well, look at the Chiefs. Their offense seems to struggle every week, and it looks like 7 or 8 times you could have beat them, but you don't beat them. So I think this is one of my favorite matchups of the year, Dan. I do. At this time of the year, it's December. Hell, it'd even be a little more football-ish if it was outdoors, right? But it's Detroit. And think about this. I mean, we're talking about the Lions like the Patriots of the past, right? Like they're dominant football team. great quarterback play. Both teams can run it. Both teams protect the passer. Both teams know how to come from behind and play out in front. And they've won ugly and they've won pretty. And both have defenses that'll get after you and hit you. So, and that being said, offenses are still the show here. I'm anxious to see the quarterback, how many times you got to throw the ball. Like, Detroit, as much as they'll go out and go for the throat, we've talked about it. Both teams want to run it. You want to give Josh Jacobs the ball. You want those two running backs. But I think you're going to see some wide open stuff, some wow factor play tonight. So I like Detroit in the game, but I think it's going to be close, and it will not take away from my feelings, no matter who wins, on the other team. And if Detroit wins, I still have pretty good feelings, about Green Bay. And I think that all three teams are capable of making an impact in January, depending on where they are and where they play.
Let's briefly go back to Thanksgiving in Detroit, because we've not had you on since then. The debacle ending for the Bears. How much of it do you put on the head coach? How much of it do you put on the quarterback? What did you think about that whole, it's been probably as scrutinized and examined as one or two plays this entire season? Yeah,
Dan, first of all, and this has been said, but I watching it while it's going on, I'm like, the quarterback in you, whether you're standing on the sidelines watching, Warren Moon or Rich play, or whether you're playing, is thinking, I'd be on the sidelines like shaking, like Denny, like, what are we doing here, right? Like, somebody call and take it into your own hands on the side, say, call a timeout. Yeah. I was watching, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was truly coaching malpractice. Now, I know people go blank and stuff, but football is so hard. The controllable stuff you got to control.
Yeah.
The stuff that you have, don't leave them all. We've heard don't leave timeouts on the board, all those things. And then here's the thing that he makes even worse. A couple of things that people are talking about. You have a rookie quarterback. So as the coach, you've got to, as you're going along, think, okay, I've got to control the situation, right? And how many times we had to just look over at me. And if you're looking over, why, what are we thinking here? That's number one. Coaching malpractice. And I tweeted after it. I said, listen, I know how hard it is to coach in the league, but I tweeted, I said, this is, if you were looking to get fired after what's gone on, I think they've lost 6 or 7 games inside a touchdown. They haven't been able to, I'm talking about Chicago. Yep. And they've got some potential. I said, if you're looking to get fired, this is it. And little did we know that in a handful of hours later, he was going to get fired. But I don't relieve the quarterback from this either, Dan. And I haven't seen enough of that. I know that it's going on, but you've played enough games. You were in a lot of high-profile games in college. You've got good football IQ. You've got good awareness. While it's on the coach, I get it, and whoever's over there. And I don't even understand why assistant coaches aren't saying, Matt, what are we doing here? You know what I'm saying? Right. And you deal with the ramifications of questioning your head coach after. You're trying to win a football game, which is the number one priority. That Caleb Williams has to take some of the accountability for this. He just does. And if he doesn't, then what do they teach him during the week of practice and all training camp? You go through every situation like, okay, what if? The what if question we all ask on radio. Well, on the football, you got to ask it. Because like we say, when a rookie third baseman comes in, guess what? The ball's going to find you. The situation will find you if you're prepared or ill-prepared for it. And if you're ill-prepared, and they were ill-prepared, it's hard for me to fathom that grown-ass men coaching football and quarterbacking it, the things that you can't control, getting hit in the back, throwing a pick on a tip ball, the things you can, you didn't control them. So, yes, the quarterback, absolutely. I don't care if he's a rookie or he's Tom Brady at 45 playing. You absolutely have to understand the situation of the game. Yeah. And I know there's chaos. If it was his first start and he was playing and it's, oh my gosh, we made this completion, I got hit on the throw and sacked and I'm a little weary, I get it. In that situation, you absolutely have to be aware. That's just called football awareness 101. And that's 7th grade stuff. So anybody that's cutting him, slack I get for a rookie, but if you're saying he's not, that he shouldn't be held accountable for any of it, that's wrong. It was 2 guys in major positions that made monumental errors on a controllable situation.
Yeah, I'm glad you said it, because I don't think there's been enough about the quarterback part of this.
Agreed.
I really don't. And again, you see the promise in the guy. This isn't saying they ought to cut him, but it's been, and I guess the issue is it's very easy to pile on Eberflus for lots of reasons, and so we know how the mob goes, man. Once they start, they're just not going to let up. But I'm scratching my head and going, no, there's got to be an inner inner, radar in his head or an alarm in his own head going, wait a minute, this isn't whatever they think we're going to do. We have to have a situation where I get to the line of scrimmage and I go 1-2 and we hike the ball. I mean, that's it, right? It's got to be.
Absolutely. And you're in a position like you say, okay, on this drive, you're playing it on the sidelines before you get the ball back, right? Okay, you're kind of, how many timeouts am I going to have as a quarterback and a coach? You've talked about it. But yes, the time clock of when to use something, when to kill it, when to throw, he absolutely does. And I see, to me, there's an accountability that comes with this position, rookie or not. You're one of our 11 guys, and we asked the coach to put you in the best position to win. Eberflus didn't at that point in time. But I also am an extension of that coach. And if I'm the quarterback then, or if as a rookie, even as a rookie, I almost think you almost have to stand up and say, I'm sorry for what happened. I know the coach got fired, but I bear a lot of that responsibility as well, because what do we say about the quarterback when a coach makes a wrong call? You got the ball in your hand, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And you're in that situation. We all make mistakes, but the mistakes, if they're going to come, got to come down on situation, hey, who hasn't thrown it to the wrong team? Who hasn't screwed up and gone the wrong way or screwed up on the cadence? But that is just blatant matter of fact, that almost the game situation has to be a quarterback's number one priority. Protect the ball and understand what's going on around you. And if you don't, then you're not focused enough on the small, minute, little details that are the difference in winning 8 games, 9 games, 10 games, or getting a coach fired and having you have to question it and be prepared for a new coach next year. He absolutely, and I'm a Trojan. I love Caleb Williams, but you know what? In this one, I can't fully protect a guy and say, oh, no, it's not on him. He's a rookie. Nah, BS. He goes and cashes that check too, and it goes to direct deposit. He has to have some accountability on it. He is partly responsible for that situation. He's got to know better.
Is Kirk Cousins playing for his starting job when he comes back to Minnesota? And if so, is that fair? What do you make of the last several weeks for number 18 and how he might respond coming back here?
Well, it's pretty obvious that if he doesn't play well, they don't win. And what is he, Dan? Has he thrown 6 picks the last 3 games?
Last 3.
And what's their record? They've lost 3 in a row, if I'm not mistaken,
That's right?
So, and the irony of it is they can win the division. They just play good football. That's not a real good division.
And they could host the 14-3 Vikings in the first round of the playoffs.
And guess what? We see that. Didn't that happen when the sub 500 Seattle Seahawks hosted the Saints in a game, in a playoff game?
That's right.
In that one.
Yep.
And so, and it could happen, and in the football world, it probably will. if that's the case, they'll win it and be at home. But here's when they drafted Michael Penix that day, and I know I'm backtracking or backing up a little bit, but with that top 10 pick, when a couple extra players, it was, and you have him under a long-term contract. You're saying, well, we have some other needs. You drafted him. It's one, you love Penix, but there's also that, regardless of how long you've been in this league, that thing where you're like, do I need to start staring at the sideline? Is Penix warming up? If he goes out and lays an egg in this game, I think there's it's the risk, the whispers or the talk's going to be a loud roar. Now, I do not think for 1 second Penix gives you a better chance to win. But as a quarterback, you want potential, you want production. And Kirk's always been productive, right? But what's been the biggest question about him unfairly at times is when we creep into January, does he make those plays, right? I suspect that his energy and leadership, that you should expect the best from him. I am, because most of the time in his career under these circumstances, whether it was in Washington or Minnesota, he's come up fairly. He's put good games together. Now, after you've done this and now you got to play the team he's getting ready to play, no easy task at all. So a lot of pressure. So to answer your question, do I think he's playing for his job? I think that I think the coaches in a meeting room, if he comes and does not do his thing and he plays average and they get beat and he turns the ball over 2 or 3 times, they will sit in that conference room or on a plane flight home, or when they get back to the meeting watching the tape saying, is it time? That question will get asked. I don't expect it to. I think he'll play well whether they win or not, but I think you're getting to the point, even though where they are, and that's the saving grace for him. If one of these teams was 10 wins, they were in the division, that you might see a quicker hook whether we think it's fair or not, you might see it. The fact that you're saying, man, do I want to put the rest of the season in a chance to host a home playoff game in a rookie's hands, or do I want to continue to let him look and see? I would expect that Cousins is going to pick this up. If he doesn't, that question in a meeting room, I promise you, and it may come down from the guy, the big man up top, and then to the general manager, do we need to take a look? That will be questioned if that happens.
Vikings looked pretty dead last week, as you know, at home against Arizona. Down 13, which I think is the largest margin they've been down this season. And then offensively, from that point forward, they get the ball 3 times, and it's touchdown, field goal, touchdown. And once again, Sean, Sam Darnold pretty much makes every throw he has to make.
He has played, Dan, if we put the numbers of like every game up, it's like 18 to 25 or whatever it is for 220 some yards. He's been, aside from a couple, mistakes throughout the year in a game. But I love the resilience of what they do. I think some people, Dan, I think you feel like I do, that I like teams that know how to win ugly. Detroit's done it. Hell, look what they did to the Texans. You turn it over 5 times, you give up a touchdown, and you find a way to win. In Sam Darnold's past in the NFL, guess what happens? That's a loss, right? But he, coupled with good teams and good play caller, kicking field goals and settling for field goals. But it just takes that one drive, and he kicked it in. And I love the fact that I think there's a major believability and buy-in, not just to him, but that they're going to win those games. And you're right, Arizona still battling for their chance to win a division out there in the West. And they were very, very, it was a boring, and it was like, gosh, what's going on with this offense?
Yes.
But I would rather have it that way than you go through and you turn it over and you get careless and the rest of it. And once you're within striking distance, because that game looked like it could get out of hand, and boom, then they got the intentional grounding from Kyler Murray.
Yes.
Boom, go, but then bang, bingo, bango, bongo, and then to make the necessary throws and be judicious with the football on the last drive, and then take them in and get them in there. That can do nothing more than just get Sam Darnold to another position of confidence, as well as the offense. So while it wasn't pretty, I'll take it, because they're staying the course, still got a chance to win the division. And sometimes in a 17-game season, matter of fact, not just sometimes, probably more often than not, you're going to have to win those that just don't feel right. And that one was looking like, what's going to happen here? And look what Sam, I think, was a leading rusher along with Jones and Akers. I think he had 20-some yards rush. So, and they still found a way to win in a game like that. So I look at those on the other side. The glass was happy. It's an impressive win for me, because they know how to close now. And we've seen teams in this league that just don't know how to do it. And we're going through that here in Houston with a team that just doesn't know how to close properly right now.
We'll finish up with questions, several different people all asking the variation of the same theme. They want to get your view on the quarterback slide situation. Obviously, this involves the Texans. Aziz, is it pronounced Al-Shair? He's suspended for the hit on Trevor Lawrence. That's reopened the whole discussion about fairness and when you should be suspended and when you shouldn't, and whether quarterbacks in some cases take advantage of the way they're being protected. What's your best Sean Salisbury speech on that story and sort of the state of the state when it comes to, the balancing act on protecting QBs?
I will say this first off. I think, and I've thought it for a long time, I have not talked to one quarterback that likes NFL quarterback rules. I'm talking about past, present. Now, we love them in the game if the rule exists, because what do we see quarterbacks do when they get brushed? I'm talking about from the pocket or not. Their head snaps at the referee like, you gonna give me this one?
Yes,
of course, and we would all take it.
Right.
But we overprotect them, Dan. We do. We've erred on the side of almost losing the integrity, because even though these quarterbacks are great and tough, we still say, think about it. When you were watching our guys play, and then you watch Randall Cunningham and Elway and Marino and all the great ones play, we sit there and say, man, they were tougher. They may not be tougher. The rules just make us question quarterbacks' toughness, because all the breaks they get, and there was, Marino could throw for 7,000 yards, right? We hear it all the time, which is not fair to the current quarterback, but the rule calls for that, and so we put it on the quarterback as opposed to the NFL and these rules and the referees. Al-Shair should have been fined. He should have been suspended. It was a cheap, dirty hit, and he's a hell of a physical football player. There's a little history with personal fouls. I think the suspension was too long, only because that there's been guys he's been flagged for personal fouls in the past. Mm-hmm. He has never been kicked out of a game. He's never been suspended, and it went from nothing to 3 games. And so I guess what I'm saying is like, where's Waldo? There's no uniformity in why we're doing. But he should have been suspended. Those are dangerous hits, and it's scary in the forearm. And then his theatrics after, right? To want to fight. Yeah. And I completely disagreed with D'Amico Ryans when he said, and I love him, but he said, well, Jacksonville was a little out of hand and overboard with their – no, because every team I've ever been on – hell, Alshair's lucky he got kicked out. Why? Because you and I both know players back in the day – they would have said, what was that number? They'd have hunted him down during the game.
You're right.
I've seen it. And I've had people ask, well, who did that? That's just the mentality. Hell, I had a former team. I mean, Pat Harlow, he even posted on play first-round pick from SC and played in the NFL a long time. I'm sure you saw the SC game Notre Dame when the guy hit the guy in the face at the goal line. Mm-hmm. Pat Harlow said if I was on that field, that guy would have been in trouble because that old school mentality. And now things change. But so all that being said, that lucky to get kicked out, but the length of it just didn't match with. So you're telling me now if Micah Parsons goes and hits somebody like that, same thing happens, and he said maybe he had some personal fouls in his career, are we giving him a 3-game suspension automatically? Or, I mean, where are we? Is that, where's the bar, right? So, but he deserved to be suspended. There's no doubt. I don't think he tried to maim, but the situation, they're physical, and the defensive guys, no rules are set up for them. And this is coming from a quarterback. There just aren't. All the rules are set up. No question. So let me compartmentalize. That was wrong. He should have been suspended and fined. And I defend Jacksonville for going after him and wanting to fight because every team in the league would have done the same thing, including D'Amico Ryans, Texans, if that would have been Stroud. Now, Dan, you tell me what's safe, where the protective device is, other than the referee standing around, guys sitting around watching. When you do slide in, a guy is in between. Where's the protective device for the quarterback? The arm goes down, the other one holds the football, and the highest part of your body is always the head because the lower part goes down first. And none of us were taught in the 7th grade. Hey, we were taught second base slide, but nobody knows how to do this. So the timing and then the first down marker, what's the defensive guy supposed to do? And then you get the Mahomes rule where he goes and okey dokes you, fakes like he's stepping out of bounds, and then and gets 15 more yards on a run when you're like, one of these times, some guy's going to send him up to Andy Reid's wife in the 8th row. You know what I mean? So, and Josh Allen's 240 at 6'5". Right. You think I want to be on my heels when that big fella decides to put his shoulder through my torso? So for me, compartmentalizing, it was bad. What we saw, he should have been suspended. We got to get some uniformity on the length of these things and suspensions. But Montana and Gannon and Elway and Marino, all those guys, all the guys, Favre. It worked out okay for them. I don't even remember us having too many arguments, and they were getting hit late all the time. Right. But they survived it. So for me, I understand the protection; they're a valuable commodity, but we got to get rid of the slide, Dan. Teach them that like they did back in the day. Get to the sideline, know when to dive down, protect the ball, use your shoulder pad as protection. I just don't know what part of protection, other than the referee's call and a defensive guy getting put in a bad situation, is you can't protect yourself sliding if the guy's going to hit you anyway. Right. At least with my shoulder pad, I can. So I hate it. I think we have gone to the point of overprotecting the court. In the pocket, I got a whole new thing about that. We'll get to another day. But outside the pocket, I honestly, and this may sound archaic, we got to treat them like regular football players. We just do. And they've got to understand to be smart about where they're going and how they're getting down. You don't just have to slide feet first. And then maybe the defensive players treat it a little different, but I think defensive players get hosed all the way around because can you imagine going into the film room the next day and not hitting somebody that was running for a first down with a game on the line and your coach looking at the tape saying, we don't want this kind of football player. If you're not going to hit him, we got to go, right? So I think there's a lot of legs to it. I want the quarterbacks protected. I don't like cheap shots, but damn, the quarterbacks are overly protected, and it's not football. It's just not once they break the pocket. I hate it.
To be continued next week, my friend. Thanks as always. We'll chat then.
Thanks. Sorry for keeping you so long.
No.
Appreciate you.
Thank you. As long as you want. Appreciate it, man. That's Sean Salisbury helping us out as only he can do every Thursday, most Thursdays here on the Fan. Unusual schedule today includes the prediction segment next. Big game tonight involving Gerbschmidt's Packers. So we moved up the predictions. I'm actually out tomorrow as well. So we're going to get it all done today. And Bill Guerin. We're going to talk Wild hockey at about 5:02. Come back for the picks. That's next.